Ambassador Haley, what would you say to Minnesotans who are thinking about not voting on Tuesday because they think this nominating process is all but over?
You know, I think that they have to remember that in a general election, you're given a choice. In a primary, you make your choice. And look at what's happened in Minnesota. Since Donald Trump became president, we've started to see things fall apart here in Minnesota. You no longer have a Republican governorship, you don't have the state house, you don't have the state senate. You look at the laws, you look at the high taxes, everything that's happening has gone because suburban voters stopped voting. We need them to vote. We need them to know their voice matters. And now you have a choice. We know 70% of Americans don't want Donald Trump or Joe Biden. I know in Minnesota, you've got that same scenario where certain people are saying, I'm just gonna stay home. We have a country to save. This isn't about us, this is about our kids and our grandkids. And if we wanna go back to an America that's normal, we gotta fight for that, because that's what's at stake.
What would you say to those voters who are thinking about voting for Trump and have a doubt in their mind, or maybe two doubts?
The biggest concern with Trump is he can't win a general election. Look at the polls. There was another Marquette poll that came out last week. He's margin of error with Joe Biden. He's either down by 5, down by 7, or even. I defeat Joe Biden by 18 points. If we really want to self-correct in this country, winning by double digits, that's a mandate going into D.C. to stop the wasteful spending, get our economy back on track. That's a mandate to go back to the basics in education and get our kids reading again. That's a mandate to secure our borders with no more excuses. That's a mandate to bring law and order back to our cities. And that's a mandate for a strong America that prevents wars that we can all be proud of. That's what we're trying to do, because what we've seen is 60% of Americans have said Donald Trump and Joe Biden are too old. They're the two most disliked politicians in America. We need someone who can go in for 8 years, put in the hard work day and night, to get our country back on track with no drama, no vendettas, just real results for the American people. And that's what we're trying to do.
Minnesota Representative Dean Phillips is running for the Democratic nomination, and he's floated the idea that there could be a unity ticket with you on the running for president, he running as your vice president. Your thoughts?
I appreciate the thought that he has, but my focus is on the Republican primary. We've got 21 states and territories coming up, and our focus has been on making sure that everybody knows that in this Republican primary, they have a choice. I mean, you look at what's happened under Donald Trump. We've lost races, including here in Minnesota in 2018, 2020, and 2022. And then you look even just as much as last week. Republicans lost a vote on Israel. Republicans lost a vote on the border. The Republican Party chair lost her job. And Donald Trump had his fingerprints on all of it. And now we're seeing Joe Biden and Donald Trump are going to go to the border. But let's really talk about this. They're going to go for a photo op. But actions speak louder than words. Joe Biden has done nothing when it comes to securing the border. And when Congress had the chance to do something, Donald Trump said, don't do it because it'll hurt me in the general election. We can't wait one more day for a strong border bill to secure our borders. And that's what we're dealing with, is we're dealing with two men that are more focused on themselves than they are on the American people.
When I was asking organizers who amongst elected officials would be here to campaign for you and to support you, I was told that was tricky because there are some people who are supporting you openly and some people who are supporting you privately. What is that about? Obviously it has to do with President Trump. How does that make you feel?
I think you have to look at, not only are we looking at what this means for the country, but when it comes to the Republican Party, there's a shift in the Republican Party. All of a sudden, it's not just that Donald Trump can't win an election. The electability is the biggest issue. And if Donald Trump is the nominee, mark my words, we'll have a President Kamala Harris. But look at the shift in policy. Under Donald Trump, he put us $8 trillion in debt in just 4 years. He didn't shrink the size of government. He didn't stop the wasteful spending. If anything, it picked up. It's increased under Joe Biden, and Donald Trump's not talking about fiscal responsibility at all. Now the Republican Party has left that. Then you look at national security. We were always peace through strength. And Donald Trump's now siding with Putin, encouraging him to invade our allies. America can never be so arrogant to think we don't need friends. After 9/11, we needed a lot of friends. And then you go even further than that. Look at the Republican National Committee. They are about to change and put a chair in that's Donald Trump's daughter-in-law. They're going to have his campaign manager run it. They have now said this will only be about Donald Trump. So we can give up on RNC supporting the House, the Senate, but more than that, he's making it his own playpen, where this is going to pay for all of his legal fees. $60 million in campaign contributions have already gone to his personal court cases. He's going to be in court March, April, May, and June. All of this sets us up for disaster.
In terms of your abortion stance, your language on abortion has been far more compassionate, far more understanding, even suggesting there's a middle ground here. Why hasn't that gotten you further?
It has. I mean, you look at the Women for Nikki across this country, it's huge. We've got chapters in every state. They are out knocking on doors, they're out calling. I mean, the second my stance came out, we had thousands, literally, of women join our team that want to be supportive because they want someone who can just talk with common sense, who's not going to demonize the issue of abortion, who's not going to go and judge people based on abortion. Democrats put fear in women on abortion. Republicans use judgment. With something this sensitive and this personal, there's no place for fear or judgment. We just need to have humanity, respect, and compassion.
What do you say to those who say that you should have attacked Donald Trump earlier and harder?
I disagree. We had 14 candidates in the race. I defeated a dozen of the fellas. I've got one left. I had to take each one out one at a time. Since New Hampshire, it's been me and Donald Trump, and we've been pounding him ever since. But, you know, it had to get to a one-on-one scenario. Otherwise, if I had done that, I would have ended up like Chris Christie. So we needed to make sure we played this out.
You've been very generous with your time. Is there anything else you'd like to say to the people of Minnesota and I guess a few weeks later, Wisconsin, if you're still in the race?
You know, I'll just remind them, in a general election, we're given a choice. In a primary, we make our choice. Make our voices heard. This is the time to make our voice. And go to NikkiHaley.com and join our movement. This is something that is continuing to grow and continuing to build. Donald Trump, in the last in all the early states, did not get 40% of the vote. If you can't get 40% of the vote, you can't win a general election. This is about making sure not only are our policies right, but winning a general election so we can get our country back on track.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Ambassador
you.
Haley.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes. All right, we'll get next. I'm